Welcome to another edition of the Converse Africa Changemaker series. And you've been watching this for quite a while right now. It's that vlog where we get to take a trip around the continent and talk to changemakers, people who are doing amazing things in whatever community they find themselves on the continent. My name is Babatunde Okunlola. Today, we go all the way to Congo. When we talk about leadership, leadership is huge in the continent. But then again, how much of the seventh leadership style do we have? Well, it's been said to be one of the major challenges that Africa has, or most African nation has. You fix the leader, and then you fix the nation. My guest is from Congo. He's had over 6 years experience in the civic space, but he's got a really remarkable, interesting story. And of course, he's been involved in leadership, training on leadership and entrepreneurship of young people. But what is that all about? Well, let me introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, my man, Kamou Biko Kaya. Kamou, thank you so much for making this happen.
Thank you for hosting me.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you one of the first questions I ask people. Congo, a huge part of this program is to get people to know more about the continent, because as Africans, you realize that we don't even know who we are, for starters. So tell anyone who's listening right now, what is that one thing you think a lot of people don't know about Congo and they should know about it?
Thank you so much, Babatunde, for hosting me in the studio. As you say, my name is Kamou Kaya from Congo Brazzaville. And one thing from Congo, I think Congo is a country which is in the Central Africa, but most of the time people confuse it with DRC, which both names are like the same. But in DRC it's the Republic Democratic of Congo, but in us it's like Congo, Republic of Congo. So that's the difference. But because of Congo River, which gave the name to both countries, that is making people confused a little bit. But DRC is more bigger than Congo Brazzaville. But we have the same culture, the same people, the same tribe, the same languages spoken in both countries, and that is even music, culture, and everything. So we are very close, 4 kilometers for both capital, Kinshasa, and Brazzaville. So that's a little bit. And Congo is surrounded by like 5 countries: Angola, Cameroon, Republic Central Africa, DRC, as I mentioned, and Gabon, and that's all.
Wow. Okay. All right. I know a lot of you don't know that. I knew that. Okay. So
and one thing in our constitutions, foreigners or strangers have the same right than Congolese. That is very powerful for African nation. So when you come in Congo, you feel like you are at home.
Okay.
Very fair.
Man, now you have quite an interesting journey. And one of the things that struck me the most about your profile is you've had over 6 years in the civic space.
Yeah.
You studied geology.
Yeah.
What is a man who studied geology doing in the civic space? Not just in the civic space, you engaging in leadership and entrepreneurship. You know, it looks like an abstract journey, and I'm really interested in that journey. But let's talk. Let's have that conversation together.
Thank you so much. I think you are the first one who asked me these tremendous questions. And one thing is absolutely, I've studied geology. Went to university in 2008, and in 2012 I get my bachelor degree, and I continued to the master. But when I came to the master, I feel like I wanted not to continue because of the system. I wanted to come here in America to study and for the Fulbright scholarship, but during the journey, something can happen. And the election of Obama in 2008 was a big signal, a big message. And when Obama came in Ghana, he called for young Africans to take the responsibility. So one message in this speech, he said, the future of Africa is up to Africa. And I started to reading great men because, by the way, for your information, something during my life, as I say, many things happen. I lost my father when I was very young. I was in high school before I went to university. And I started to read about many great leaders like Abraham Lincoln, Madiba, Martin Luther King. So there's life teach me more. And one thing is you have to notice, I live in a francophone countries. Yeah. We speak French. And when I started learning English, I was obliged to reading the books, learning from the culture, learning what is going on in most countries we speak English. And I started reading those great leaders. So that shifted my mind. That changed my way of seeing things, not only focusing on geology, but what we can do as a community. And I started serving very early in my school. And I was in the board union at school. I was even arrested because we were advocating for better condition at school. But fortunately, I was released, and I keep on studying. And we create like a ECC, English Club Council in Brazzaville, which train many young, put all clubs where people go and practice or perform their English. So this is one of the council also we are advancing some issues in Brazzaville. And in the mid of my journey, I think that I wanted to do something more than this. So when I was applying for the Fulbright scholarship, one of my colleagues, is a woman, told me, "Oh, you have to apply for Yale." And I went to Kenya, I applied, and I was selected. When I went to Kenya, that was the shift of my journey, definitely. Okay. And I really understand what should be Africa, what should be our contribution, what should be our place in the world.
So that was when you decided you wanted to...
When I decided, leadership. And I started reading many books in leadership. Even before, but that's what I saw in Kenya definitely changed my mind. I met one lady called Winnie Mushwana. And Winnie was more younger than me, but she had an opportunity to travel around the world, to go to UK to study. She studied in Kenya, she was working, she stepped down, go to Kenya to study. She came back, was working in a big bank in Kenya, but she caught sick. When she went for the Yale program, she felt herself serving the community. So I see this kind of things, kind of people dedicating themselves for the cause of the community. So, and when I learned from Obama history and all great leaders, like when you read a long walk to freedom of Madiba, and also the book of Martin Luther King, the March Toward Freedom. So you understand that if you don't struggle, nothing gonna happen. So we have to work for the better of others.
All right, let me get something straight before I go on to the next question. So leadership was something, it wasn't like maybe something you set out to do. Along the way, you got inspired by other Africans.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. Because it's important we state that, because most times we talk about, born leaders, someone's born this way, probably you have a traumatic experience, which some people do, and which is a turning point for them. But, what I hear you say is that, you were in a space where there were so many people inspiring, and you just wanted to be that change as well.
I just wanted to be not to focus on myself, which is most of the case. You go to school, you get your degree, you have your job, and you don't care about others.
Great. All right. And communicating your leadership, sparking that fire in other people. You chose education.
Yeah. I think education is the key if you want to change, as Madiba said. If you want to change a community, educate them. And when I read the book of Paulo Coelho, the book of Paulo Freire.
I hope you guys are taking notes. Like, this man has mentioned about 10 books already. And I'm thinking about it like, what books are those? Like, I should go get some of them. But really, this is remarkable.
If you read the book of Paulo Freire, the oppressed people, the pedagogue of the oppressed people, and you will understand that if you want to release people who are suffering, who are struggling, who are oppressed, you have to teach them. Because this is the only way you have to release people. And the challenge in Africa is not the problem of money, it's not the problem of raw material, but the challenge in Africa is our education system. So we don't have a good curriculum, and most of the time our curriculum focuses on a degree, not transforming the mindset of people. So we want the curriculum which will have a target to transform first the mindset, but not the degree. But people focus more on the degree. I have a PhD, I have a master's degree, I have a bachelor's degree. That's okay, but what are you going to do? What is your passion? What is your contribution to the cause? What is your contribution to your job? So when you understand that, that makes you different. You are not only work, but you are going to make a progress at a different.
So I need you to like explain what your typical curriculum looks like, because now you're talking to me about a sense it's not the usual stuff people are used to. You get the degrees, the theoretical aspect, but then again, how do you apply that? So what does that look like?
Yeah, for me, people who really understand the mission on earth behave differently, and they really know what they are doing, be it working for someone or starting their own business, but they are more effective, more efficient in things they do in their life. So that's the difference. That's why I think the education building on leadership contribute more, and this is, we are preparing the upcoming generation of leaders, not only in Congo but in Africa. That's our message. That's what we work.
All right. So for those of you who are just tuning in right now, this is Converse Africa's The Changemakers. I'm here with Kamou Biko. And so let's talk some more about education. And this one's moving away from what's going on in the Congo and your work in the Congo. Let's talk about the continent at large. When it comes to education, there are different controversial discussions around it. They say we still often teach it using colonial curriculums. Colonial curriculums that really do not contextualize our experiences.
Absolutely.
And yet we talk about the change we want to see. We talk about how Africa is different, how we need to do things by ourselves. But the very methodology we're using is based on a system that doesn't really incorporate our realities.
Yeah.
Have you had experiences with this? And when you take a look at the development state of the continent, how do you think this affects, or does it really matter? You're the one who's doing the work in the field.
Yeah, this is really matter for me. If you see around the world, the only continent who has forget its culture is Africa. All part of the world, they're very attached for the culture. You cannot develop a nation, a community, or a country or a continent without showing them where they come from. We have to learn from our past and build on. So, but the big issue in Africa, our curriculum, our father they have been taught by Western people, and guess what? They should taught them at that time. America, Europe. That's why even today people know more America, Europe than their own continent, than their own countries. That's things we have to turn over. That's things we have to change. So we want to address the issue of curriculum in our country. If I ask many young, do you know Sheikh Anta Diop? They don't know it. But it was a great leaders, the great intellectual men in Africa. So we don't even know what's happened in Egypt. We have pyramid. We were the first to give knowledge to the world. People like philosophers, great philosophers, were dreaming like today. We are dreaming to come in Europe. We are dreaming to go to America. We are dreaming to go to other part, to China, to other part of the world. It was the same thing in the past, where those people in the Western country was dreaming to come in Africa to learn. Yeah, we have lost this. So now I'm claiming this. That is my vision. That's what things we have to change. So we have to teach where we come from. Even our kingdoms, no one taught. You see what's happened in Timbuktu, in Mali.
I was just going to mention that.
Those kind of things. In Sudan, we have pyramid, but no one knows what happened there. And no one teaches it at school. So this is things you have to correct and to redress the issue of curriculum in our school. That's why I said the problem is not getting bachelor degree, but the problem is to really to know what you are studying and what should be your contribution.
Oh my God, thank you so much, man. You guys have got to do something about this. We need more time. I know you're looking at me like we need more time, but I'm throwing it back to you right now. All right, we've just got about 2 more questions to go, and I want to talk about education some more. We talk about education as being the key.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, that's what we say. But then the kids go to school, the youths go to school, And after they go to school, there are no jobs
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
And so in recent times, we've started questioning that reality and that saying. And you have a lot of young people who say, what is the point?
Yeah.
If I go to school and I do all of this and go through the issues and then it doesn't take me anywhere. And you have the areas of materialism amongst a couple of them. So I'm asking you right now, when we talk about education, is it enough?
Yeah, education is, for me, we have to know what kind of education we are talking about. Education is not only going to school, that what things I want to correct. Even in
But we seem to put more emphasis on
Yeah.
that. So maybe I should rephrase that.
Yeah, we want to put more
So
emphasis, we put
formal
more
knowledge.
stress on going to school, but we can learn from education. It's life. All the experience you are going to face in your life, that is what I call my education. Don't think that our grandfather who didn't attend school were not educated. That's also the misconception of education. So at the time, they knew some things which today we don't know. So for me, the bad curriculum we have here, we focus more on degree, and we don't provide those who can create jobs. That's the difference in Western countries. Here, in most countries like in America, when people go to school, they not only focus on just getting a degree. They will tell them, hey, like Kennedy said, don't ask your country what she will do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. That's the message young people in Africa need to have. To know that I'm going to school, that's okay, but after school doesn't guarantee me, or my degree doesn't guarantee me to have a job, but you have your brain, you have your mind, you have your soul, you have your hands, you have your feet, you have everything, and you can start doing something. And what is good for Africa, we have lands. And what is good for Africa, like I said, Africa is at the crossroad of its history. We have the youngest continent in terms of population. We have 16 young million in Africa. So the number will be double in 3 decades, the upcoming decades. But this is an asset, at the same time the challenge. So if we fix it, we'll take over all the continent. Maybe people who are wondering coming in Europe or in America will come in Africa. So the challenge of the 21st centuries will be played in Africa. So we want to train and prepare the young people to be well educated. But what is sad in our education system, no one teach those young these things. Look at our infrastructures. It's Chinese who build it. It's European who came and build it. It's American who came and build it. We do nothing. Because what? We don't care about that. And we care about having job. But no one cares about solving the problem of the community. So how I can solve this problem, which can become an opportunity, which can become a business for me, and so I can make money, but not only making money, but helping my community. So that is the point for education.
All right. And I hear you, and I'm sure that they do hear you too. And I'm very sure, I have a sneaky little feeling that we're going to be having more of this conversation going forward. And, and so to wrap this up, leadership and, unwittingly, you've gone on to talk about entrepreneurship and the link. Because one of the questions I had was to talk about to you about the link between leadership and entrepreneurship, and, where, they meet, but, you've been able to cover that, talking about, educational skills and all of that. Or is there more you'd like to add to that? Leadership and entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Because the problem is we have a lot of entrepreneurs in Africa. We have a lot of people who have great ideas, who start, but they most of the time fail.
Why?
Because of the problem of mindset. That's why leadership is very important.
Is it mindset? Because again, I'm listening to you right now and I'm thinking about, you have the ideas, but then the infrastructure you need, the system, most times for a lot of young people I've spoken to, basically works against you in some times. Because how come? How do you explain the fact that a young man who's unable to excel sometimes on the continent, he travels out of the continent and it's almost like he blooms. We've seen it happen with education.
Yeah.
You have a young man who's just an average student, but then he gets to a place where he has the facilities, he has everything, and he suddenly becomes an A system. Surely there must be something we have to say about, the fact that the system sort of set you up.
No, the problem is not the system. The problem is us.
How do you mean?
That's
what do you mean us?
That
average guy.
Let me go by saying this. In most countries in Africa, the population is made up by young people, like 60 or 70% for some countries. So why are we accepting leading by the minority? But because of two things. We are being underserved by the minority because we are selfish and we have, we hatred. We don't love each other. The day we are going to correct those two things, we will unleash our potential. As a young man, we will change this continent forever. That is the point. The problem is not those, the environment. The problem, we can create this environment.
Problems with us stepping up to leadership?
Absolutely. The problem is not to be focused on the circle of concern, but to be focused on the circle of influence. But you have to work on that. You have to build your brand. You have to make your voice count. When we, the majority, are going to understand that law, because the universe is governed by laws, but we have to understand those laws, and we are going to change this the situation. So that's the point. Right? We complain too much in Africa. That's it. Most young, we blame the government, we blame everything, but we don't want to take over. We don't want to do something. We are afraid to do something. We don't want to be afraid to do something. When you know what is you are doing is right, just work on that.
All right, man.
Thank you.
All right. So, I don't know, we could go on and on and on, but you know how it is. But I've learned a lot. I know you have as well, too. And that's the size on this particular edition with my man from Congo. All right, what have you learned? I do this thing where I get the notes. Now I know the RC is different from, Congo. A lot of you keep mixing that up. And I learned a couple of other things about the mindset, about, the place of our institutionalizing what works for us as well. And we have to have this conversation. I thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you for hosting me. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's the size of this edition of the Chainmaker series. Who we have in next? Well, you'd have to just tune in to find out.